All right, let's do 5-second recap before we get started. So we've finally learned why everyone is on this lovely boat. Remember, it's like juvie, but in the water, basically. And the kids are so busy with all the stuff that has to be done on the boat, like the lines and all the sails. Like they're busy, busy, busy. But remember, our main character, Luke, had a gun in his locker. He has a felony charge from it. JJ is the one whose dad's a movie star, and he stole his dad's motorcycle. He brought alcohol to the school dance. He stole stuff. He's got a ton of issues. Will and Liza, they are the siblings that fight a ton. Like they fought so bad they put each other in the hospital. Charla was the one that I'm not totally sure why she's here. Remember, she's an athlete, but all of a sudden she's burnt out and her body's not working correctly, which I'm not really sure how she ended up on the boat because it's not like she was in trouble. It's just for whatever reason, she's on the boat. And then Ian, remember, he was crying and he said he ended up here because he was watching TV. Like, what? Watching TV? So that is what we pretty much ended up with. And the last thing. So now we are on, remember, it goes by days of the week. We are on chapter 7, Friday, July 14th at 06:10 hours. So that's 6:10 in the morning. Slam! 4 orange life jackets came sailing down to the deck of the crew quarters. Will came awake with a start. He sat up and was nearly tossed from his berth by the rolling of the cabin. Remember, the berth is like the bunk beds. Personal flotation devices, barked Mr. Radford. Get dressed and get in them. Remember, in the last thing, we heard there was going to be some wind. So no swimming because there's going to be some wind. So a life vest, he called that a personal flotation device. Okay. We all know what a life vest is. Like you put it on so you don't die in the water. Hello, if you just joined us, we're one sentence in. Will's heart was in his throat. Is the boat sinking? They're called waves, snarled the mate. Maybe you've heard of them. Now hurry up. The 4 boys got themselves ready in a tangle of elbows and knees. On deck, they found Liza on her hands and knees in the gunwale, throwing up over the side. Remember, Liza gets seasick. Ugh. And if they're hitting waves, that means they're going to be even more rocky than normal. So the boat's going to be moving more, which means she's probably going to be getting seasick even more. So sucks to be her. It was the one side that could have brought a smile to Will's gray face. Mom and Dad always tell us, find what you do best and do your best with it. You're turning into a real whiz of barfing, Liza. Liza was too weak to fire back a retort. Good morning, bellowed the captain from the cockpit. I think today might test your sea legs a little. We're seeing 8-foot waves with swells in 10-foot range. And the wind's going to pick up later in the day. So let's be extra careful on the deck. Now, I want you all to go and eat a hearty breakfast. You'll need your strength. That's all. The 6 crew members crept gingerly aft and climbed up the the companionway to the tiny galley, which was just off the main cabin. There was a powerful odor of sizzling butter, practically knocked them over. Scrambled eggs, crowed Mr. Radford, nice and greasy. They'll slide all the way down. In a flash, Liza was back up on the deck, gulping air. Luke opened the latch and folded the table down from the bulkhead. The crew gathered around it. That rat face is some piece of work, he muttered. 3 days of dry toast, but now that we're hitting heavy seas, he decides to get creative in the kitchen? So, greasy scrambled eggs. He's like, hey, hold on. I have a timeout. Got an email.
It's like,
can I eat eggs anymore? Fun fact.
It's like bacon, but with extra grease.
Well, eggs can have a weird texture too. So if your stomach's already feeling not amazing, maybe you don't want to have greasy food, especially eggs.
With these with the braces I have, with grease, it makes your gums irritated.
Oh, that's no fun.
So I can't eat a lot of bacon.
I love bacon, but I never have.
Actually, regular bacon's not good for you, so you should eat turkey bacon.
Well, I don't really ever eat it. I eat it probably less than once a month, so it's not. I mean, if I ate it all the time, definitely it's bad for you. But
Lies. Okay, bye.
All right, sorry. Evan asked me a question on email, so I had to send it back. Okay. Dun, da, da, da. It was a rough day on an inexperienced crew. The wind was whipping around the rigging, and the deck pitted to and fro. They struggled through the fine, chilling spray off the whitecaps. Their shoes slipped on the slick deck. By 1100 hour, which is 11 a.m., Will was beside his sister at the rail, giving up his scrambled eggs to the Pacific. It's days like this, yelled Mr. Redford, that made me become a sailor. The Phoenix tacked, sailing close hauled at an angle, first at port, then at starboard. It's called beating the windward, the captain explained. We can get where we're going in a zigzag without having to sail into the wind. The constant changing in directions meant a lot of work on the sails. Their hands were raw and bleeding by the time Mr. Radford called lunch. So what they're doing is, instead of going straight like this into the wind, like that would push their boat back, they're going this way, then they're going this way, then they're going this way, then they're going this way. So every so often they have to change the sails and change the sails and change the sails. And by pulling on the ropes, their hands are getting rope burned, super uncomfortable. But now it's finally lunch. The meal was another rough weather masterpiece. Liver and onions with canned succotash. The mate took great delight in watching the faces turn green. Ian and JJ barely touched their food, but Luke refused to give Radford the satisfaction of hearing him say uncle. He sat across the table from the cook, glaring into his eyes, matching him mouthful for mouthful. Ready for seconds? Challenged the mate. Bring it on, replied Luke, tight-lipped. So he's like, oh, you think I'm not going to eat? I'll show you. And he's eating liver and onions and whatever succotash is. Blech. I mean, more power to you if you like that, but liver and onions, not Mrs. Kneiffel's thing. The wind got stronger. Captain Cascaden ordered the sails trimmed and took down the 2 jibs on the bowsprit. By this time, the swells were reaching 12 foot. So that's how high up the waves are going. So they're probably just going up and crashing right onto the boat. It's like a roller coaster, moaned Will, hugging the main sheet as if he was trying to reimmense himself with ropes and pulleys. If I get through this day, he vowed, I swear I'll give up smoking if I ever start. I love the sea, Mr. Radford roared, shaking off a face full of spray like a sheepdog after a bath. We'll make sailors out of you lot yet. I'm a landlubber, JJ groaned defensively, and the more time I spend on this boat, the more I love the land. Meaning, he's a land guy. He doesn't want to be a sailor. Luke had never seen this mate happy. Radford was so nasty that it took everybody combined misery to put him in a good mood. Hey, Archie, he called to Luke. You don't look so hot. You'll feel a lot better if you let that seasickness out. Luke grimaced. His stomach was doing serious backflips. That would put the crowning touch on Ratface's day. He set his jaw. It was never going to happen. Grim with determination, he staggered forward, stumbled down the companionway, and squeezed himself into the tiny head. He couldn't even get down on his knees. There wasn't enough room. He just bent over the bowl and surrendered to his overwhelming nausea. Yes, Nolan.
Is this our last meet for the day, or do we have one at 1 o'clock?
It's past 1 o'clock.
I mean, 1:30?
No, this is the last one. I just started the reading a little bit earlier. And we're not going to read too much, so we'll be done in probably 10-ish minutes. 10-ish minutes. Then he flushed away all traces, rinsed out his mouth, and washed his face. Back on the deck, the captain was addressing the assembled crew. There's no break for these rough sea days. We're going to have to strike the sails and heave to under power. I heaved already, said JJ feelingly. Shut up, Richie Rich, snapped Redford. Heavens, too, means turns to the wind. If you listen, you might hear what you don't hear because you're not listening. Captain, said Will in a timid voice, how scared should we be? I mean, are we in trouble here? The captain threw back his head and laughed heartedly. Steady on, my boy. This is an ordinary day at the office for the Phoenix. She's been in seas twice this size and came through with flying colors. She's a fine ship, seaworthy in every way. So Will's like, okay, snap. We're in this, like, sea storm of waves. Should we be nervous? And the captain's like, no, it's fine. Basically like, yeah, no, you're totally good. So down came the sails. No one felt like eating, but the captain ordered toast and ginger ale for all hands. The swells were reaching 15 feet. Standing near the bow, it looked as if the sea was opening up to swallow the Phoenix. Patrols between waves were so low that for a second there was dead calm there. No wind, no spray. It was like the eeriest part. Luke actually found himself yearning for the blustery chaos atop the crest. Ian was the first to decide to ride out the rough seas strapped into his bunk. He disappeared down the companionway. A moment later, there was a blood-curdling scream. We're sinking! We're sinking! Mr. Radford ran over to the companionway. Take it easy, Archie. We're not sinking. He looked down and saw the boy standing up to his ankles in water. Holy skipper, we've got water in our crew cabin. Captain Cascaden turned the bilge pump and grabbed a person closest to him. Crewman, take the wheel. Will stared at him in shock and horror. But I don't know how to drive. We're in the open Pacific, the captain assured him. You're not going to hit anything. Just hold her steady. I'll be right back. Will stood there with an iron grip on the wheel, and the captain hurried below. A leak, he asked his mate. Negative. Lisa jumped down the companionway to the girls' quarter. No water in here, Captain, she called. Captain Cascaden opened the door to the head. 8 inches of water poured out into the cabin. The toilet bowl was full and overflowing. Seawater surged out of the flusher pump with each wave that hit the boat. The captain reached down and twisted the lever to the pump. False alarm, Mr. Radford. Somebody forgot to close the valve. I'll kill him, threatened the mate. You'll do no such thing, chuckled the captain. In fact, I don't even want to know who it was. Get a pump and bail out the cabin. A bell went off in Luke's mind. He pictured himself sick as a dog, but determined that Ratface would never find out about his Technicolor yawn. He'd put so much energy into cleaning up the evidence that he'd forgotten to shut the valve. Guiltily, he volunteered for the worst job in the pumping operation. His pants rolled up to his knees. He stood in, head holding the sucking tube, trying not to fall in as the toilet as a deck tussed under his feet. Mr. Radford ranted through the whole business. How many times do I have to tell you to close the valve? Does anybody have half a brain on this ship? It was torture, Luke thought, but it was better than having to confess that all this was his fault. So remember, the special thing with the toilet was because it, like, I don't know, but there's a weird valve on the toilet you have to close. I don't really understand it. And he forgot to do that after he threw up. So then he's the reason that the whole thing is flooding. So he volunteered to clean it up just so he because he feels guilty, even though the captain was like, no, don't know who it is. We are now on chapter 8. Dun, 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 dun. July 15th, 0650, which is 6:50 in the morning. J.J. Lane was dreaming about bikinis. The pool deck was packed with them. You must be an actress, he said to a yellow one with stars on it. The girl reached out behind him and smack! Will Greenfield's arm came down off the upper bunk, and the open hand slapped J.J. full in the face. The actor's son sat bolt upright, visions of swimsuits popping like soap bubbles before his blurry eyes. Bright sunshine shone down the companionway. He checked his Rolex watch, a birthday gift from Madonna. 6:53. Huh? Radford usually had them up by 6. He heard the deep rumble of the captain's voice above. Let them sleep, Mr. Radford. They were pretty sick yesterday, and they need their rest. You and I can get these sails up. Radford laughed. Sure can, Skipper, and we'll have an easier time of it than they do. J.J. heard the captain chuckle. Then he heard another sound, a powerful hum, and the scrape and squeak of the mechanical wench in operation. Frowning, he crept up the companionway and peered out on the deck. The captain and the mate were both in the cockpit. The mainsail was rising all by itself. He let himself drop to the deck of the cabin. Unbelievable! The 3 other boys stirred. More trouble? Will asked fearfully. JJ was so angry he could barely speak. The captain and Radford, they're raising the sails. Luke climbed down the bunk. Just as long as we don't have to. They're raising the sails automatically, JJ explained. There's a gizmo in the cockpit that does it like a garage door opener. Ian spoke up. You mean all the hay yard work for nothing, confirmed the actor's son. But they could have done it with a touch of a button, like they're doing this minute. Those jerks, Luke muttered. I'll bet Ratface is laughing inside every time we rip up our hands holding those ropes. It's probably CNN's policy, you know.
What?
Work by doing everything the old-fashioned way. Yes, Nolan.
So they have a garage door?
No, he said, you know how on a garage door you push a button and it automatically opens? He said that's like for these sails. Like they're pressing something and the sails will go up and down on them on their own. But the past few days,
a garage, basically. A garage sailboat.
Yeah, but they're just sails. They're not garage doors. But the kids have been having to do all the hard work. But
well, yeah, it's like a prison.
Yeah, remember it's like juvie on a boat.
No. Military school.
Yeah, military school in a boat. Yes, yes. So they're like now mad. They're like, oh my gosh, we could have not been doing all that work, but like they had been. So by suffering, Luke added, we can't let them get away with this, JJ said, tight-lipped. What can we do about it, asked Ian. They're in charge and we're not. We have to do what they say. We can fight back, JJ insisted. Luke glared at him. I don't like CNC, but it's better than jail, and that's where I go if I don't complete this trip. I don't even think about messing it up for me. JJ struggled into his life jacket. Oh, wait, sorry. Will struggled into his life jacket and pulled the straps tied around his back. That was the 4th time, 6 more to go, Radford's orders. Yesterday, Will had spent the entire day with the device on backwards, and the punishment was to put it on and take it off 10 times in a row. Not like that. From behind, iron hands, seize the ties, yank them to strangulation level. It's supposed to be snug. Hey, that hurts. Perfect, Radford confirmed. If it's comfortable, it's on wrong. 10 more times, Archie. So he put his life jacket on wrong, and now he has to put it on and off 10 times. So that stinks. Will smoldered as his mate stood away. It was humiliating. Why wouldn't Radford let him do this in the privacy of the crew cabin? He had been out in front of everybody. Even Liza, she wasn't saying anything, but he could see her scorn. She stood behind the wheel of the Phoenix, piloting the schooner through the waves. Captain Cascadian was at her side, beaming his approval. Wouldn't you know it, out of the 6 of them, his sister was turning into the star-sailing pupil, while he was a sweat hog in the back row, too stupid to figure out how to put on a life jacket. Look at her chatting with the captain like they're old friends. A bitter thought began to form in his mind, something like, hey, Liza, make sure you don't slip on any of that barf from yesterday. But he didn't dare say it with Cascadian right there. Besides, Liza wasn't letting the seasickness bother her at all. Liza, who had more reason to hate this trip than anybody, actually seemed to be liking it. I should have been an only child. The captain resumed his stance at the wheel while Liza began examining various gauges and dials on the control console. Yeah, right, thought Will. She knows what she's looking at. He watches as his sister features contracted into a frown. Captain, I forgot. What does it mean again when the barometer is falling so fast you can't see it moving? The captain scanned the glassy sky to the west. The line in the black clouds was as solid as the wall stretching clear across the horizon. We are going to stop there today, my friends. So we read 2 more chapters. Thank you for joining me. You are free to leave. Get any work done that you need to get done. No more lives today. See you later.